You got a little trouble talking with that thing on.
Yeah. Put this down here. So if we talk.
That's a pretty fucking cool. Is that what you wear when you go out?
um, yeah, sometimes I mean, yeah, in the
Mm.
when I'm out on the underground, you have to wear a mask. So I have this now. So yeah,
Amazing.
good to see
Amazing.
you, man. Haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah,
Haven't
it's
seen
a
you.
funny week because 2 days ago I was on was it 2 days ago? Or maybe it was Thursday last week. I was on a podcast with a German guy who lives in Vancouver Island or British Columbia Island or something down there by Vancouver.
Yeah, yeah.
A really nice guy. And I saw Val on Friday or Saturday. I can't remember.
All
I'm going to
right,
see her
cool.
again. She's back in Paris today. I'm going to see her again this week, and I'm putting on a
Yeah,
dinner with some friends, so she's going to come.
cool. Very
Yeah,
cool. How have you been, man? How's everything? You look good.
things are good. Yeah, I had a beautiful summer and 4 weeks of holiday, which was amazing with friends and family. I was in France, excuse me, and uh, yeah, I got back about three weeks ago. My life is a little bit of a shambles here because my apartment is being worked on. I'm changing one of the spaces into a bedroom,
Okay.
and so it's still not done. So I'm living in my studio apartment, which is why I look like you're in a very spartiate, as we say in French,
Yeah, yeah.
space, just me and the wall, because it's a very small little space here. So I've been pretty focused on trying to get that finished and done. And lots of memories this week of Burning Man going through me
Oh yeah.
and everything that brought to me and the whole experience itself. So I've
Oh
been
yeah.
spending some
Yeah.
time exploring there, and yeah, and otherwise, just doing my thing in this world. It's kind of crazy now, trying to continue to connect with people and connect people,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
working on some concepts around that right
Yeah,
now. And
I'd be really curious to hear about all these things because it's been yeah. I mean, first of all, I mean, thanks again for taking the time. Excuse me. This is not Corona. This is just I ate a carrot and I've managed to have some problem here, but it's I think
the famous choking carrot, of course.
yes. Oh God, yeah. It's a risk. It's a risk factor. You wouldn't know. Yeah, it's basically my daughter came home and she has a little box like a lunch box and there's some carrots. I was like, I feel like snacking something, and you go like this, and then I went to the basement and just picked out some of the other stuff that I wanted to put on, and then as it goes, and then so if you're doing all these things together, then sometimes yeah, that happens. Yeah, but as you can
Yeah.
as you can see, I have the hex
Now the
thing
hex
going
thing right
on
here.
here. So the hex talks. So we're officially so you're going to be part of the channel. We have 10 episodes already live, and
Really?
I'm in the process of releasing a bunch, which is another 3 or 4 episodes. But just talking with people and just connecting all over the world. I mean, it's such an interesting moment because for me, last year when I went to Burning Man the fourth time, I was in a big transition as well out of my old profession towards something new, which was unknown. But I came back being totally inspired by the conversations that I had with people like you, and just thinking, okay, I want to I want to play that little part where I can record some of these conversations and make them available to the wider to the community. I mean, to the collective, but also if
Yeah.
other people are interested in it, then that was the idea behind it, that they can just share it with whomever they want to. Almost, I mean, there's some. I'm so fascinated by this medium today and this technology that I'm thinking, there's even some on a certain level, some kind of a legacy that you can leave also to your loved ones or to your kids or something.
Yeah.
Later on you can share it or with your relatives, and they can share some of the thinking or some of the ideas.
Yeah.
And and then it's been quite quite a journey also for me. So I did some travels where I made some recordings, and I did the first few ones till about January, and then I started in this little new venture with some people, and totally paused this idea with the podcasts and the recordings. Corona hit, which was just extremely stressful, balancing everything out between family life, the kids being at home, working. But at the same time, I was still pretty privileged, because we have a little garden, and a trampoline. So for the kids, they could still go outside. And
Nice.
once this period sort of passed, where I myself, and I think this was the case with probably a lot of people, I myself was kind of concerned or worried, and thinking, what if I catch it? Am I at risk? What's going to happen then? And you're sort of processing these kind of things. It went into a more stable situation. Then again, also in Germany, we were relatively fortunate, I would say, that the situation became more stable relatively quickly. And then, by May, I was leaving that. I tried this out with these guys, and we ended up, going our own ways, which is fine, just as an idea. But then, so when I had time again, I again felt like, hey, I want to pick this up again, because it's so much fun for me, and it's like something I really want to continue. So that's why I reached out and I said, hey, are you up for it? So and I had a few calls. So the latest ones that you probably haven't seen out yet is with Chris. I don't know if you remember him, Chris and Hillary. He did a shift at the airport at the time. He has like hair about this long, curly, a little bit curly hair. And Krista, do you remember Krista? She's training to be a pilot. So that's coming out soon.
Awesome.
And with Nadi, of course. So did that. And Artem, I think Artem you have not met, because he didn't take part last year, but he was part of the whole collective like the years before. Okay. So so that's basically the rundown.
Is this okay with my glasses with the light here, or is this going to be a problem?
No, that's totally fine. It's
kind of cool.
I just think it'll be cool, because I went online yesterday trying out the virtual Burning Man, and that was also interesting, because a couple of months ago, when everything was cancelled and then they were talking about some kind of virtual thing, I thought, that's going to be crap. I don't want to even be part of that. Who cares? But then actually I tried it out yesterday, and it was a lot of fun. It was a totally bizarre experience. I got these Oculus things here, like on eBay for 90 euros, and it's basically everything you need, and then you can just access it. You don't have to pay anything other than that. And then all of a sudden you're in this virtual HEX camp, and then you can meet these. I mean, they look like comic characters basically, but you're standing in front of them, and you can just talk. You can just chat to each other. You're looking at obviously like a computer person, but it's the real person. I was talking with TJ and Greg yesterday. It was crazy. I was like, what the hell is going on here? This is insane. Yeah, and then you're like walking around, floating around, and they recreated almost the entire Burning Man space. So the camp is like a separate space, but then it's just absolutely incredible.
I wonder how many people have gone.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's but tell me about your life. What's going on? And I see you have did you bring that hat last year? It's like is that a
it was one of the two hats that I had. This is actually a French fireman's hat.
Oh, okay, wow. How are you in this honor to wear that? Did you just pick it up from somewhere, or?
I found it at a flea market out in the countryside here in France when I was looking for hats. And I thought that was pretty appropriate to bring a fireman's hat to Burning Man.
True, yes.
I don't think anyone knows it's a fireman's hat except me and the few French people that were there. But I like it. It's a bit it's a bit heavy. I actually prefer my other hat a bit,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you know, kind of fits the deal and brings me back into the Burning Man style. With my jacket decorated by my Indian artist friend. She actually did all the artwork on it. Poonam
Nice.
Mani,
Nice.
who's
Yeah.
based here. She's kind of, I call her the French Galliano. She's a color freak artist and does all sorts of fascinating things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah. And I actually, no, I bought this at a flea market also. And actually, everything I bought here was from a flea market. The best place to learn something, you know?
Well, that's all in
I didn't
the.
even wear my fur coat last year. You realize that?
You didn't?
It was so warm at night. Did you,
Yeah.
I mean, did you ever wear yours? I don't think anyone really wore those. It wasn't cold enough.
True. Yeah. No, I don't think I did. No.
Yeah.
No, they were only no. The year before, I remember, but last year it was actually quite warm. But it was not. It was nothing compared to 3 years ago. 3 years ago was absolutely insane. It was way too hot. It was like between. I remember in the afternoon between 1 and 4, it was so hot that you couldn't do anything literally because you would have just.
Yeah.
It would have been horrible, really horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a bizarre experience. Yeah. So how did you? I mean, what was your takeaway? I mean, how I remember we we went our ways, almost a year ago. I mean, how did that feel? I mean, what was your takeaway from the whole experience?
Yeah, it was literally, I think tomorrow will be a year date to date.
Yeah.
Probably, well, today's Monday. Yeah, it might have been, it was Monday, I guess the last day of the day when I left, I think it was on Monday. Yeah, I left and I was in such an ethereal, transcendent state as I guess we are when we go and when we leave and when we've had a phenomenal experience. And of course, the theme last year was perfectly suited for my world and my life.
Metamorphosis.
Metamorphoses. I mean, geez, how could you ask for a better scenario? And it was just such a eclectic experience, right? Like so many different, varied sensations to experience, and like everyone is together, but everyone is also in a lot of ways on their own journey.
Yeah.
And I met someone really, really cool on the bus in, a really beautiful woman from New York City. And we hung out for like the first 3 or 4 days and we did a lot of bicycling. She was a very athletic triathlon woman and a sailor and everything. So I'm pretty athletic also. So we would bike like crazy all over the place. And, like the first few days for me was just this kind of discovery kind of phase thing.
Yeah.
And I think probably the first day I had my biggest lesson about what Burning Man would be in a lot of ways, at least for my experience. And I was going to pick up my bicycle, and I bought a bicycle, or rented a bicycle that was done by an organization, I think it's called Art Bike, that actually uses the money when they're making money, uses the money to help people in Nepal, I think, or Tibet or Nepal, to build like buildings and schools and structures and things. And so I said, wow, this sounds cool. I'll pay and I'll just pick up my bike there. It sounds easy. And okay, so I go on Sunday to pick up my bike. It's about 10:30. There's about 20 people waiting in front of me. I get up to the front of the line. There's a beautiful topless French woman. So we talk in French, great moment. And then I look around and like, there's hardly any bikes left. I mean, and most of them are broken. And I'm like, well, when's the next, are there any more? And she's like, yeah, another ship car's coming in, but we don't know when, of course. So people are getting a little bit anxious. And I said, well, okay, let me figure this out. So I found a bike, but I found a bike with 2 flat tires and no chain.
Okay.
Right? Okay. And so I'm like, okay, this is a cool red bike. Let's see where we can do this. And there's obviously those stand right there where people are helping you repair the bikes. So I start like, looking for help, and they say, well, you need to ask this person. I just taught them how to do it. So, so the community thing starts to kick in. But, I've never done any of that. I've never put on a chain on a bike. Also like it's not the right size. There's only like one chain tool, super rusted. It's too long, too short. Just like endless stuff like this. I couldn't get my tires pumped up. I'm like, what's going on? Turns out the pump was the problem, not the tires. So this goes on for like an hour and a half, and I don't really make any progress. And finally, I'm sitting there. I was trying to get the attention. This guy was paying a lot more attention to the women than to me, I think.
Of course.
A beautiful man who suddenly started telling us his story. And there was a lady who was just sitting on her knees, basically playing with a chain. She was trying to fix a chain or oil a chain. We were kind of, for a moment, we were kind of alone with him. And he starts to tell his story, and he says, 4 days ago, I was at the emergency room where I help post-traumatic people after great, operations and stuff to heal. This is his profession, except he decided he was quitting. 3 days ago from Burning Man, he gets a phone call from this camp that says, we need to find people who know how to fix bikes. And this guy was a friend of the camp owner, because the 10 people we were bringing over from Nepal can't come over because all their visas got canceled. So they're scrambling to find support, right? So this guy says, okay, I'm going to go. And he tells his wife, I'm going. And she says, no, you need to find a job. And he says, no, I need a break. I need to reconnect with my inner child. I need to kind of do this. He's in his 40s. And then he says, like 20 years ago, I took frog, which I can't remember what it's called, the technical term for, the psychedelic drug, or toad, it was toad or frog, anyway.
Okay.
And he's like, I took it 20 years ago, and I had these epiphanies that led me on the new direction of my life, and I'm hoping that while I'm here, I'll find somebody that can maybe, support me with that. And right then, I'm a little bit like exhausted. It's been 2 hours. The sun has been rising. I'm getting a little bit irritable. I'm like, fix my fucking bike.
Oh yeah.
And like, I thought I showed up and like the bike was going to be all ready and decorated. And I'm just like, woo. It's like, no, are you kidding? You show up and you get this junk bike that you have to fix and figure out how to fix. And then you have to decorate, right? And so I'm learning.
Talk about a reality check at Burning Man.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
It's pretty crazy. So right in that moment when he tells a story about the toad, this lady who's been silent the whole time stands up and she says, hey, I'm a shaman. And at our camp, we have doses of toad. And we don't usually give it to people that we don't know, but I want to give it to you. And right then, my irritation went from like here, and I said to myself, that's why I'm here, for this kind of magic to happen, for these kinds of encounters. This is what happens here in the most odd moment. It's not about me. It's about something magical happening. And if you're not in the groove, if you're getting uptight about these stupid things and not just living and enjoying, you're just realizing that this is the ride. This is it. You're there, right? This is part of Burning Man.
That's amazing. I mean, that means like you had almost initially you hadn't been there for a long time, and already you had that very special moment where you realized that there were a lot of things that you could let go from when you're there, and sort of accept that into that state of mind when you are in that situation at Burning Man, and go with that flow in a sense. Even that's a bit of a cliche term, but that's amazing.
So it's allowing that and opening up to that, and just kind of being really, really present and open. Really kind of open-minded, and just realizing it's kind of not like the real world in a lot of ways, right? And yet it is, if we take it back into our real world. So that was like the kickoff thing. And I had a crucial moment on Wednesday. I went to go get a beautiful massage, or not a massage, but a breathing session at one of the camps. And it was like the only thing available. And it was an Italian lady, and she did like a Reiki breathing session. And right before, it was also quite fascinating because I'm sitting there's a bunch of mattresses. I can't remember the name of the camp. And over at the end there's a topless man with a beard. I hope I can tell these stories. Topless man with a beard. And there's also a topless woman who's with him, who's wearing blindfold. And he's got a rope rolled around his, his hand there. And
Mm-hmm.
I start watching, and they're doing this very balletic, graceful thing. And he starts tying her up, like just in front of everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I realize he's doing this very elegant Japanese bondage technique or session or something,
Mm-hmm.
which I knew nothing about. But just realizing that you can actually witness something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and that surely that's probably his offering, his gifting
Yeah.
into the community to say, does a woman want to have an experience of this in a safe way, literally in public? And everyone just kind of minding their business, but it's again like everyone's doing whatever they want to be doing there, within reason. I mean, there are things that are not
Yeah.
really,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's this is.
dangerous. I mean, you don't want to be like doing things that are so illegally and so dangerous and hurtful. That's the word I want, like hurtful to somebody. But when it's like two willing partners and something's happening, it's almost as if they were in the private of their own space, but they're there with everybody, right? And you just realize, don't judge.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to live life. And if you open yourself up to not judging, you'll realize that you're not going to be judged also when you decide to do and live the way that you want to most live your life.
Yeah.
And to get over constantly thinking about that or comparing or judging other people, criticizing other people, like putting people into a box. So anyway, that was a bit long, but
Yeah.
so I have a session, and it's a breathing session. I come out of the session and I told this lady that I just lost my wife, and I was looking for a moment to go to the temple, and I just haven't really had the metamorphosis moment at Burning Man. I've been there for 4 days. It's almost like first impression things. There's lots of discovery, but there was something kind of still digging at me. And so we do the session. The only thing that comes out for me at the end of the session is I need to walk around the playa naked.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
Well, this was an idea that came up in your head, or how did it happen?
that's the one message that came to me.
Yeah. Yeah. To be.
Your
And what
healing is
was it?
going
Was it like you
to
wanted to be
your
free, or
liberation.
yeah? And can you maybe describe what was the emotion? Like, was it like liberation? Was it expression? Was it like being free of everything? Or I mean, what comes to mind? 'Cause that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's for me, it turned out to be somewhat of a metaphor of like the shedding of a snake's skin. And like I'm shedding sort of the last skin that I needed to shed to be able to leave that moment in the past of my life
Mm-hmm.
there and leave it on the playa to be able to move forward with my life and to be able to reconnect with this. I want to call it sexual energy within me, but what I really mean is this, love of life, this vitality, this inner resilience, this like this inner child, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just the joy and the unbelievable creative energy, limitless, that can come out there. Like suddenly, you see infinitely more colors. It's like suddenly you're living in HD. And so that's what I did. The next day I went early in the morning by myself out to the temple. And actually that was the moment where I posted some photos of my wife, had a very emotional moment at like
Yeah.
6 in the morning. And it was such a Burning Man moment. A lady comes up and taps me on the shoulder. And she says very gently, "May I offer you a shot of whiskey?" And I'm like, "Yes, you may." So I'm crying. I'm kind of going through this very intense moment. The sun is
Yeah.
rising. I found a beautiful corner. And yeah, I had the last ceremonial moment there. And then I walked out of the temple space. I
Mm.
took off my backpack and I stripped all my clothes off and put them in my backpack. And it's
Mm-hmm.
important probably to note that this is a relative story for people. I don't spend my life at nudist camps or I don't have a problem with my body necessarily, but I don't really
Yeah.
live that way, particularly not in huge crowds of people and this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was a tremendous moment of liberation from this grief, from the responsibility as a husband, from all the all the pain, all the suffering, all the
Yeah.
the sense of loss. My role in that, I'd taken care of, I hope, lovingly and, as great as I could have. But it was
Mm.
time for me to turn the page. And it
Yeah.
was right in that moment that it happened. And that's, the shedding off of the clothes was this symbolic moment for me. And then I spent 3 hours walking on the playa, going and dancing, talking with people, having people film me, getting photos, and feeling at first unbelievably self-conscious for a little moment. You
Mm.
just feel the wind on yourself down there, and you're like, "Whoa, this is pretty interesting," right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a, I'll never ever forget that moment the rest of my life. It was like, for me, that was a
Yeah. I'm
peak
sure.
moment at Burning Man. And
Yeah.
I think it was the next day that I think you saw the post I did on Facebook. I think it was the next morning that I ran across the roller skating. And this also was one of these moments of,
Well, the rink where you can roller skate. You mean?
yeah,
The, oh yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
because that was my biggest thing when I was a kid was roller skating. So anyway, the nudity thing, I think also is there's a sense of self-consciousness that I've had a lot throughout my life, and particularly when I was younger.
Mm.
Uh, and this was almost this, lesson again, like no one cares, what you do. You're
Mm.
the one who gives value to what other people care about what you're doing at any level in life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You
For
spend a
sure.
lot of time, I'll speak for myself, you spend a lot of time wondering about that. Is this good enough? What are people going to say? Am I going to get criticized? Did I really put in
Yeah.
the work? And you get a little bit, and it was a moment of saying like, who cares? Just do what you want to do, give your best. You're in the moment, you're trying your best.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just live, stop wasting so much energy on
Mm.
all of this. Expose yourself in the way that you want to expose yourself. Do what you want to do with your life, and everyone is just gonna, do their thing. They're not
Yeah.
so they're
Yeah.
not so focused on you. Like no one's looking at me down there, whatever. Who cares about what anyone thinks anyway? At a
That's
certain
this.
level, right? I don't,
That's
you
a
know,
great. Yeah, definitely. That's a great point. I mean, because I can relate to these moments, these epiphanies as well. Because probably every person who goes there probably has to in one way or another has similar moments, related to similar things, even though they might be of totally different magnitudes,
yeah,
but some pain that people carry with them that they are
mhm,
struggling to let go from. And I mean, some pain will always be with you. It's not about that, but to be more you're accepting and more outward looking again, letting it go in the sense, okay, it's part of my life, but it doesn't stop me from doing the things that I want to do, and the positive energy that I want to spread. And then this other element, also what you described, with watching these two people, performing this rope thing, rope art, if you want to call it. It's almost like, sometimes I feel like at Burning Man, it's because people are there, because people encourage or encourage and accept all these things. Maybe it's even easier for people in that space to finally, do that. I don't know, maybe, um, because when you come back, I mean, obviously when you live in big cities, then there's probably spaces, if you're really out for it, that you can find anything everywhere. That's not the thing. And this is always something that when I've had some jokey questions addressed to me, saying like, oh, so what goes on at Burning Man? Oh, it's probably only about the sex and drugs and stuff. And at
no.
first I
If
didn't
you
know.
want that, there is.
Huh?
If you want that, you'll find that and create that and spend time with people doing that. Sure,
Well, yeah,
if you want
but
that.
the thing is that people, when they
One
ask me,
example.
okay, oh, is this why people go to Burning Man? And I thought, this is, well, sure that happens, but I didn't even know how to answer it, because it felt like a kind of weird criticism. And then after thinking about it some time, I came up with the right parallel, and I would say to people, well, if you think about it, it cannot be the reason, because you can get all that in any big city in the world anyway. So you
That's
don't
a
need to
great
go to the
analogy.
center
Yeah.
to find that. So it
So
cannot be about that. Yeah. and these other elements, like regarding the pain. I mean, for me, it was for me, I have my father died when I was 12, and I never. I mean, it never stopped me from having a good life and going through life in a positive way. But when I went to Burning Man the first time and going to the temple, it was the first time that I actually found a place where I felt like I could connect again, and I could not just connect, but also in a way let it go properly. It's very difficult to describe, but for 20 years or longer. I never felt like going to the cemetery or anything. It was I don't know why, but there for the first time, I felt at peace, really. And as I said, it's not like it was dragging me down or something, or just keeping me from doing good things and having a good life. But it was very magical kind of thing. So I totally related. Tell me again. You were with your wife for a long time, huh? You were married a long time.
Yeah, 27 years.
Yeah, it's quite a. I mean, because I remember when we first met, and I mean we were chatting before we even went to Burning Man. I'm not sure if you told me about it when we had the first call about it, but I mean it doesn't matter anyway. But I remember being there and just thinking, yeah. I can't even excuse me, imagine what that's like, but it was so good to. I'm very happy that you seems to me were with this group with HEX and with the people who could take you in and where you had a base from which on to you could explore not just Burning Man but explore what was going on with you as well. So
absolutely,
yeah.
Yeah, I think some people ran away from me after I told them my story, but that's okay.
Yes, wow.
Everyone's at their own level of consciousness, and I wasn't looking to. I didn't want to offend people, but it's a little bit of a heavy thing to share with. Some
death is a death is so in the Western world, it's a very I wouldn't say it's a rare thing, but it's like treated as being really rare because people tend to live so long, and you don't have people. It's kind of I mean, as compared to maybe 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 years ago, where death was a much more I would assume much more regular part of life. So we are kind of fortunate, but that also means that there's a kind of a difficult relationship, and people assume that it's people feel really uncomfortable, or can think that it's a really really difficult topic, and it's. But I mean, tell me more about where are you now in terms of your journey? Like what do you do? How do you? I mean, what do you like professionally now, and what's going on? If you want to call it professionally, I mean, it's like what I mean. Like, how do you?
Yeah, I love that quote that says, I can't remember who said it, but something about, when people can't tell the difference between your personal life and your professional life, that's the man who's really living, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I definitely
I assume about you anyway, but yeah, I'm just curious. I don't know it.
I definitely aspire to a certain form of that, and obviously life is about not just one moment. If you focus your attention, awareness, and energy, and discipline, and tenacity, and you have more of a long view, I would say, of life.
Mm-hmm.
You can build really magical things that can allow you to live a life in a way more like you would like to live it. And I've spent a lot of my life with that intention in mind. Mostly because I wanted to get to a place where I could have choice and not to be under, the pressure of a corporate job, which I was until about 8 years ago. I was in the movie business for 20 something years.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. And so, there's lots of aspects to building, that a so-called abundant life, as I would call it, a life that, you get your needs and your wants met and you live generously towards others. And my life is very much, particularly in the last several years, has been very much around gathering people. And, that could be at dinner parties or at, well, let's call it a dinner party, but more like a conscious cabaret dinner party. And
Okay.
other types of gatherings, up to 40, 45 people, the sensorial experience day events that I put on, mixing lots of different eclectic kinds of people. It's very much let's call it a conscious, or what I say, unconscious pattern break through peak experiences that are offered to you as a spectator, but you also become a participant in the experience, whether it's dancing, singing, painting, going through the four seasons as a tree, doing magic,
And is
et
it,
cetera, et cetera.
yeah. I assume it's about the connections between people, or what other like dimensions or purposes or things are happening there, or what do you aspire to create in these events?
I'm very much a people person, so the people aspect is not minor. I think when you gather people in a more intimate setting, not too many people, but 40 people maybe maximum, you can create an environment that's extremely connective on a human level, and potentially open people up to really who they are themselves, and they can have this like lightning bolt moment where they realize they need to leave that job. They can have a sudden epiphany that the person that's in the room is the person they've been looking for their whole life. They can, and it's largely what I'm really facilitating a lot for people is to get people out of their heads. I spent a lot of my life caught in anxiety thoughts, chronic, not being able to focus my awareness, that it was stuck in loops of anxiety, which would push me to bad habits, bad decisions, impulsive things, troubles.
Was that what you would call like
troubles at work?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Was that something like, could you call that like a survival mode in a way? Like you were.
Yeah, I think all of us have our own. It's like a coping mechanism, right? It's kind of everyone has their own way of doing that. And I've tried to create spaces where the people get so distracted by their senses, which is my big thing. This is why I call myself the sensorial guy. Is when you're able to actually let your senses be stimulated and you focus more on that, you leave thought. Thought is the very easy thing to refer to. We're so caught into it. We're such a rational world today that the first place we go to is thought, and we try to heal an emotional thing with a thinking, right? Or we try to heal there's something that's going on that's a little bit too dominated by what should be pretty much an execution machine or a habitual pattern machine, which is kind of our subconscious working. And yet I feel that we've trained ourselves, a lot of people, not in necessarily a proper way. And I'm seeking to bring people back to their senses. Come to your senses. And let's actually allow your senses to enlarge it without it becoming an obsession, without becoming a Dionysian, if you know Dionysus and his story. Dionysus was the guy who created semi-god, who actually created winemaking, where ecstasy comes from him. Even I think the word orgy kind of comes from him. So he was a bit in the excess of that. For me, examples are like Jim Morrison or John Belushi, or like people who live so much in a level of exuberant, out of control pleasure and drugs and sex and whatever, and they kind of lost touch with me. They lost touch with what actually is real life. I want to enable us to head in that direction, not without purpose associated with it. So you can have pleasure, and we can have more pleasure. I think a lot of people have been closed off from pleasure, whether it's relation with food or drink, or sexuality, or with their body, or at work, or in their relationships. There's so many levels of joy, let's call it. This vibration of joy, and allegresse, which is shared joy with others. And so I'm really seeking to reconnect people by using senses in a lot of ways that are actually daily. There's a really funny echo going on here. It's really daily activities, whether it's eating, conversations with friends. There's so many moments in life that can become the spiritual personal mastery exercise that you're using real life, and you're not using some kind of vacuum situation. For me, it's like really easy to go off to an ashram and be focused and not be distracted. I went and did a 10-day Vipassana retreat. If you've ever done that, which is like the polar opposite of, I did it in October last year after Burning Man. It's the polar opposite of Burning Man. It's 10 days, same length, 10 and a half hours a day of meditation. Total silence. You listen to instruction. You can't look at anybody. You can't talk to anybody. You eat with your head down. You hardly eat. You're supposed to eat less, 25% less than you. You can't, no drugs, nothing to write with, nothing to read. Your phone is locked in a safe for 10 days. So it's a completely sensory deprivation experience. And yet, the whole experience is about bringing you back to the sensations you're feeling in your body, but learning, first of all, to focus on it. Right? We have the zapping head. So first day, all you do in this, the first day, all you do in this Vipassana is you focus your attention for 10 and a half hours. There are breaks, but you focus for 10 and a half hours. Breathing sensation in your nostril, up and down, up and down. One day, that's all you do.
Wow.
So you go ape shit, right? It's like you've never meditated. I meditated for like 1 hour once. I meditate regularly, but it's 20 minutes. And suddenly, you're there first day, 10 and a half hours, and all you're doing is supposed to be able to focus on that. Next day for half the day, now it's just here, right in the nostril and here. So anyway, they sharpen your ability to focus your awareness so you can actually guide where you focus your life. And without having this mechanism in place, we are living through life somewhere else. We're on autopilot. We're not present to ourselves. We're not present to what we're doing with ourselves. We're not present in how we're being with people, where we are, what we're experiencing. We get very lost in that path. And for me, what I'm calling sensorial intelligence is realizing that you can't just live with sensory stimulation, which is this whole pleasure only, kind of piece where you're not bringing any wisdom into it. You got to bring in purpose. You got to bring intelligence. When you mix the two together, you're living in sensorial intelligence, and you're able to live a much broader life as you start to practice, lean into, and open yourself in real life experiences, not some intellectual exercise. In real life experience, what it's actually like, for example, to stretch your palate. Maybe as a kid you didn't like something. Well, why don't you go back and stretch yourself? It sounds like a totally ridiculous example. I'm telling you, I've had people at eating experiences.
That's interesting.
Who, for example, would never want to eat an oyster. And
like me,
there you go. Well, there's no ocean.
I should try it. I should probably try it. Yes.
There you go. So, to have that experience, and at least maybe you like or don't like, that's not the question, but to not allow yourself, for me, is a metaphor of what we're doing emotionally for ourselves. We're closing off to parts of ourselves that make it so we're not living the colorful, expansive, daring, open life that we think we're living. And suddenly we start doing that in our relationships. Suddenly we start doing that in the bedroom. And suddenly we start doing that with the possibilities that are available to us, our creativity, and our most important relationships. And little by little,
Yeah.
we suddenly are surrounded by people who are all like us. And it's like we're living in an ice cream shop with one flavor, vanilla.
Yeah.
Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Life is way more colorful without
Yeah.
it being a James Morrison, Dionysian, off the cliff. From my perspective, you don't need to live like that or, be a crazy person, or not too crazy. I guess I'm a little crazy, but there's a little bit of measure without going into the.
But it's a good kind of crazy. It's the good kind of
Yeah.
crazy, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great way of putting it. It's kind of the good kind of crazy when you're not.
No,
hurting
but this is
yourself.
something. But this is something, and what you, if I may interrupt, there's two things that really, two things that really resonate with me. It totally makes a lot of sense. But how because I've been going through this metamorphosis myself, not just since last Burning Man, but almost for the last 5 years, I would say, because and I detect so many things that you mentioned around. Especially this, what I've noticed in my being and my going through life, is that I've been becoming more sensitive to feeling. Yeah, it's hard to describe, but rather than trying to make a decision based on rationality and trying to when a question comes into your mind, which might be very abstract, or you might not even understand what the question is about in terms of, it could be anything about, what should I do next? What should I do tomorrow? What should I do in 5 years or whatever? Or how should we live in this life and my relationship? Any kind of question. I used to be more, thinking like, okay, how can I address this rationally? And now I've discovered then that it usually was too early and not the right way to go about it. And now what I'm doing is much more being much more patient at first and sort of waiting for the answer to come to me, rather than trying to force the answer to kind of like to find it, to grasp it, and to reach it by like fighting in a way, by fighting with my mind and trying to get to the answer, really. And I've noticed this also with, especially when you get advice from others, about some situations in your life, for on your relationship. Let's say your relationship isn't going well, and then they say, well, maybe you should see, what you do. Maybe it's better to separate or something. And it's, obviously this is well-meaning, well-intended, but I mean, you have to make your own decisions. But so what I'm trying to say is, I've noticed that with that even in the past, I would sometimes my behavior would already go in the direction of where I should go, but I would not be able to express it in a rational way. But I would already behave like that. And now, instead of saying one thing and behaving the other, and behaving in the way that I really want to, I try to sort of marry that better, and think these things through. And while I act, being able to be true to myself and actually express it as well. And this maybe it sounds a bit abstract, but in terms of my
abstract at all, I think it's very pragmatic. It's very
it's
clear, and you're open and conscious to it. Like your consciousness. Can you imagine from 5 years ago to today? Like suddenly you even realize
it's a huge
that's
difference.
possible, right? Like that's what meditation is, Vincent. I mean, people meditate. And what happens? You've done meditating, I imagine. You sit there and thoughts come in endlessly, and you're supposed to kind of let them pass by like clouds, right? It's like a little puppy dog sitting at your foot that keeps running away, and you gently smile and come back. And at the Vipassana retreat, one of the things that just, again, the takeaway from that was every time we'd restart the meditation again, he would say with his Indian accent, this guy, Aaron Goenka, he would say, start again. And that's like all it is it's come back to the moment where you give yourself that moment of escape from the chronic 80,000 thoughts per day kind of thing. Those kinds of moments. And quietly, that's certainly one way. I believe through movement, through
exercise,
through different sensory stimulations, you can actually access, first of all, the joy inside you. And when we're in a joy place, we trust ourselves more, we trust others, inhibitions go down, we become playful, and so we become more daring, and we become more creative. And suddenly we realized, well, instead of being so serious about this, maybe if I come at it from a more fun, playful kind of space, and feeling I can actually access more parts of my intelligences, right? I mean, like the Indians say, we have like, what, 9 or 14 kinds of intelligence?
Yeah.
And just like what you're saying, though, just pausing and like taking your awareness and focusing it somewhere else on your body. Like, just that, I feel, is already somebody who's saying, let me just put this on pause, like hit the pause button on your brain. And let's see what else the audience here, my circle here, my committee, my board members, my body has to say about this. And already right there, that's an art form as far as I'm concerned. Like you already start to get that going, and you're actually living what people do in meditation, but you're living it in real life. And that for me is like just being conscious of that to practice it. Even in the littlest interactions in life, it makes a fundamental difference over time. And that's, that's for me, that's the work, right? How do you keep coming back?
And it's like
that?
it's
So
one question
you for awakened, or what do you call it? It's huge. It's huge. There's those distinctions that make all the difference in daily life.
It's
huge.
I definitely want to come back to that as well. But you mentioned that you are quite athletic as well. So you do a lot of exercise, sports as well, or what do you do, and what's your routine? Or like, if you have one, or like, let's say like a typical week. I mean, how does exercise and movement play a part?
Sure. I mean, sure. During the quarantine, which was March, I got back from. Oops. Sorry, can you hear me? It looked like it froze for a second.
Yeah, it's a bit of a lag, but I think we're back now. Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah.
So during quarantine, oops, you froze again. You still there?
I'm still here.
Okay.
We might need. I mean, in the worst case, we will. I'll stop the video, but then we can keep talking. But let's try again one more time.
Just keep like blinking or moving so I know that you're there. I'm like, is he moving?
Hear you.
Don't strip though, okay?
Next time.
Next time now. I'll let you do that with somebody else. So during the quarantine was a beautiful moment for me because I was in a very small space because I was letting someone else stay in my apartment. And so I was literally in 17 square meters for 50 days and mostly closed in at the beginning when, in March and April when, they couldn't let anyone out. So I did a few things in that moment that meant a lot to me. One was I stopped drinking any wine. I drink wine almost every day. And I decided I'm going to stop drinking. And the second thing I did was I started in the morning to do and go back to what I do called the 5 Tibetans. If you've heard about this, these are 5 movements that are kind of like yoga movements that were done by Tibetan monks in the morning, and it wakens up everything in your body.
Okay.
And it's an unbelievably magical, powerful, strength and flexibility building thing that's relatively short to do. You do either 7, 14, 21 times. So during that period, in any case, when I was doing that, I would wake up and literally, I would probably first do some sort of I wipe my tongue off and to take off some residue. And I usually do a extra virgin olive oil, coconut, toxic pull. It's called oil pull that you swish around coconut oil in your mouth and for about 15 minutes. And then you spit it out and release and rinse your mouth with hot water, and you're releasing a lot of the toxins that have accumulated during the night. Only then I drink quite a bit of water. And then I go do my Tibetans. And then after the Tibetans, I usually do some sort of gym, athletic gym stuff. Or a yoga session.
Like regular exercise stuff, or like.
Yeah, no, I do just stuff on the ground. I don't need any. I don't really use weights or anything. I'm in a kind of a space where I'm happy not to build up. I'm more interested in being strong and streamlined than being bulky. I
Yeah.
would probably do more weights for sure, but for me, it's more important to show up and do stuff regularly.
Yeah.
That's how I keep my strength, and that's how I stay in the shape that I want to be. Pretty much is that. It's more about the consistency and the regularity than it is about becoming Arnold Schwarzenegger. For me,
Totally.
I think I'm doing okay. I'm 52 years old.
Yeah, I think you're doing okay, David. Yes, I'm actually, I know you're doing okay. Oh well, I'm convinced of it. But this is so interesting because this was a big part of my metamorphosis, which so one thing which was just crucial for me because just to put it in perspective, so I left the job that I was in for 15 years. I left it just 4 weeks ago. I'm out of it officially like 4 weeks ago, and so many things were happening in the lead up to that, but also so many things have happened since I left. And in the lead up, I knew I was looking for the answer. Okay, what's next? What do I want to do? And Burning Man last year was a great situation where I learned to trust myself more and to go with that instinct more. It was really funny. I went there and thinking, okay, well, I know that I'm going to leave this job at some point next year. So what should I do? And maybe this answer will come to me. And then I had a moment where I went out cycling into the playa outside of the whole city, and sat there for about 2 hours, and just with a notepad. I had nothing with me, and then just thinking, and then at some point, the answer came to me. But it was so funny almost, because it was almost like I myself started talking to myself, but saying something like, what is the answer? Just fucking relax and trust your instinct. It wasn't the answer. It wasn't the answer like, okay, this is what you should do, and then this is. Hey man,
it wasn't a rational answer.
It was, but it was exactly what I needed. It was exactly what I needed.
Shut up, motherfucker! Just trust.
It was just like, it was almost like, okay, so get a grip, man. Your life hasn't been terrible so far. So why are you so worried? Why are you so scared, or maybe you're worried? Just go with the flow, follow your instincts, and that's it. And that was crazy. Yeah, that was great. But what I also knew, and that was more like the spiritual thing, but that I also knew, and most of the time we know when there's things we do or things we don't do that we should be doing. We know it, but we have reasons why we don't do them, or we have reasons why we do them. So now that becomes the big trick, right? How to stop these things, or how to start doing the things that you really want to do. And for me specifically, it was always about, how do I properly start in the morning into the day, so that I can be actually productive, even though productive sounds sometimes a bit, I don't know, crap, but you know what I mean. Having a sense of purpose and putting your mind to things that are meaningful. That's basically what I mean with that. And I started doing exercise in the mornings, which was totally unusual for me. For 20 years, 25 years, I would always only do it like in the afternoon or in the evening. And so I started changing that around. And that was a big change. And especially since like May, when I went out of that other sort of little venture, I would call it, I've done it really strictly, and I'm still doing it. So in the mornings, I've started to getting up earlier, going to bed earlier as well. And then I go out. I've canceled my gym membership, because I learned enough things that I can do outside from another burner friend who showed me all these things. And I actually do pull-ups at the bus stops here and around the corner.
Yeah, that's use everyday life, man. That's it.
Yeah, it's great. So
the stairs.
Yeah, and I
use
do
bicycle.
now every day.
Walk.
So every day, or at least 5 days a week, I do it, and sometimes even on the Saturday as well. And then just recently, I had the absolute, just when went on vacation, and by coincidence, I finally found the right, I almost call it a hack for the evenings, because I now had the first part of the day figured out, but I still hadn't figured out the evening. How to get into a mode where
you have a sense of purpose, you have a sense of structure, and then you have a kind of like a ritual where you can go to bed and not feeling like, okay, I should do these and these things, or I haven't done enough, or you start beating yourself up about something, and just having something where it's easy to go to bed actually. And I started going on walks in the evening for maybe an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. I listen to podcasts a lot, which is something I don't do when I do exercise in the morning. In the mornings, no headphones, just me and my brain, just processing everything, no distraction, just the exercise. And then in the evening I do that, and it's a total game changer for me. It's crazy, and now it gives me this construction. It only took me 30 years, to figure this out, but now it gives me the structure that I can, I have faith in my abilities again, and I can, I actually do these things that I find meaningful, and I'm really enjoying it much more. And to finish on that is what I tried to ask you when I said, the survival mode. This is finally, just coming out of officially being part of a company and now being, my own man, if you will, self-employed, whatever you want to call it, an entrepreneur. Now that I finally come out of that, I reflect on this long period where I wasn't living what you call an abundant mindset, but I was literally in survival mode. I was in this high-paced environment. Yes, the pay was good, but everything was just like I was being chased all the time, by the job requirements, by family, by the kids, by friends. It was like almost like not being in control, but just like sort of surviving and just holding on to it for dear life. And now that's changed. That's changed totally. It's really something special, and I really want to build on that. It's only been 4 weeks, but it's already, it's quite the metamorphosis. And I really needed that switch, even though I was already on leave before that for a long time from the company. I really needed to leave that place. I mean, I have no grudges at all. It was a great experience, but I had to, just letting go of everything else. The laptop, the mobile phone, the ID card and everything, and just because it kind of it's an identity thing, I guess. It's like a self image.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the good news, the good news is you're in control.
Yeah.
And you know what the bad news is? You're in control.
Yeah.
So this is where the fun starts.
Yeah.
This is where all this training that you're doing for yourself, this is when the rubber hits the road.
Yeah. And speaking of which, I wanted to ask you.
This is when it matters, right?
It's almost like when
personal agency.
Yeah, it's in a way when sort of like similar to maybe when you left your job back then, but like a similar situation. And I wonder because
I didn't hate my job, but I left. Huh? I didn't hate my job, but I left.
No, you didn't hate it. No, but I left your job.
No. I didn't. I love my career. It was great.
Yeah. So, but I wanted to ask you, did you ever, because I'm kind of thinking about doing like this kind of like a vision board or something. Have you ever worked with that? Is that, and if yes, have you had any experience on that? Can you recommend it or?
Yeah, I haven't done a lot of vision board stuff. What I'm hearing works really well is to do your own mind movie. Because that really.
Oh, what is that? I've never heard of that.
Look up mind movie. You can do it on there, or you can just use a PowerPoint presentation or iMovie, and you literally make the movie of the life that you want to live. And then you watch it, at tender moments where it can get through to your subconscious. By tender moments, I mean like right when you wake up in the morning and or at night, these moments, you wake up to pee in the middle of the night maybe or something, but and to watch it regularly, 10 times a day or something. So I don't do that. I know people who do that, who claim that this has helped them manifest because they get it so into their habitual thinking that it becomes part of their subconscious, and suddenly their body and brain and everything starts acting in the way that the stuff that they want to bring from the future starts manifesting because they already believe it's here and all this kind of stuff. So that's one way. Vision board is another, if you can somehow find to do it. But I mean, when you have a movie, you can keep it with you on your phone. You can watch it all the time. that's kind of an interesting way to do it. But I mean, I would encourage also just, start doing the things that you want to do. Start hanging out with people that you want to hang out with. Stretch the kinds of people that you want to meet. I mean, this is another thing. Me, I don't know a lot of people get to spend a lot of time hanging out with like artistic or creative people. Most people have their job, but they've never hung out with a singer or songwriter or a painter. And so it's like only in, they'll go and see a gallery thing, or they'll go, but like having a social moment where they actually get to like be in the aura and the energy of somebody who's really more in their intuition, heart, creativity, sensibilities, emotions, sensations, metaphors, like this kind of space, right? This mythological storytelling space that's not, even poets, even writers, like spending more time with these kinds of people. And Burning Man is a great testament to this for me. I mean, this is kind of why I went to Burning Man, was like my event that I was doing, Sensorial Experience Day, was sort of a mini, and I didn't say this, someone said this to me, sort of a mini Burning Man, right? This sort of, at the end, people are like, oh my God, is this end in an orgy? I'm like, well, not really. But just like this notion of using like you were talking about, I love what you said about doing pull-ups at the bus stop. It's like, how can you use everyday life? How can you choose and make choices in life to actually go eat at that African restaurant, because you've never eaten African food before? Obviously, parentheses, pick the bloody best one, pick a good one, don't be a numbskull, right? Pick something sensorially delicious, right? Be smart about how to find somebody who knows, and then go and be in this traveled, experienced place. Where you're the minority, not the majority in terms of color. Where, like this is like use life. We don't use life enough. We get into these routines and habits and things.
Yeah.
And while it's really great, I think, to visualize how you want your life to be, what I'm saying is, what can you do right now to actually enable yourself to do this? Have you ever done sensory deprivation?
I haven't, no.
Sensory deprivation tank. I think it's hard to do right now given what's going on in the world. But that's an extraordinary experience also of being alone in a completely sensory deprived space, floating in water, and the magic of that is that your brain is using 80.
I've done that at least. Well, at least in one of those tanks. Okay, I've done that.
In the dark and everything. So I mean, these are quite exceptional kinds of experiences. But I think if we would spend more time with a more exotic mix of people, first of all, the world would be a better place. We would understand each other better. We would appreciate their culture, their food. Food is fucking everything, or at least it is for me. And you suddenly start to open up and have a richer life without changing anything except the place you start eating, the food you're eating, the drink that you're trying, the people you suddenly start to hang out with or reach out to on Facebook. And it's not about, it's about variety and eclectic and diversity. There's a lot of this thinking like hang out only with people that, are going to elevate you and blah, blah, blah. Well, somebody maybe is going to elevate your heart or your creativity or your intuition, your empathy or your compassion. It's not just about their social standing, their job title, how much money they're making, who their friends are, what kind of car they drive, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you suddenly open up to like, wow, life is abundant. It's all here. You just need to make different daily choices. It's all here.
Yeah.
And I think you start to get better.
What can happen then is, I think what really, how that really contributes to, I would say, like the greater good, is that when we come, going back to what you explained at the beginning, from this rational to more the sensory, and we learn to accept ourselves, and we learn to be in that space where we do these meaningful things that we want to do, and we become braver. But that also means that we become more authentic. And I think when we are more authentic, we can connect to others much more quicker, because and this is something that really at Burning Man has enabled me, at least, which was just breathtaking, I would say, that it's so quickly that you reach that level where you have a deep connection and you talk about you share anything, with someone else. And this is something that if you open, I noticed it's actually like in real life, outside of Burning Man, that it's really something which is so wonderful, that when you open up and you share something
personal that people are encouraged to do the same thing, and they see, hey, wow, I can trust this person, and I can actually share something with them, and just by sharing, sometimes, it's a way to express and to process, even though there's no answer or anything. But it's important to just be seen, to be accepted, to be included, and to have that space. And this is really something even day to day I can feel, and it feels so much better for me as well, because I'm not afraid to share things again as well. Yeah, there's something that I also, in that survival mode, it was so much about, no, I have to be strong. I don't, I just ignore how I feel. I take care of everything else, and things are going to go well. And I had this one situation, which is just before, like, it's like 3 years ago, or even 4 years ago. I was basically approaching some kind of a burnout state. It wasn't. I was fortunate, but I only took like a week off, and then I went to see a counselor for like a few months. But I could still keep working. So it was relatively mild, I would say. But one moment really hit me when everything was. I was approaching that. I didn't even know I was in that place, because you always tell yourself, it's not going to happen to me. And then I was approaching that. I didn't even know what was going on. And then my parents were in Asia traveling, and then my dad apparently had heart palpitations. So we had so he basically lost consciousness, and then fortunately only broke some ribs, and they were in Bangkok, so they had very good healthcare and everything. It could have gone a lot worse. I mean, a lot worse. He could have died, of course. Yeah. So he survived. It was all good. But they had to stay there for a while. And this was literally during Christmas time. Yeah. So I was just about to go back to Berlin. Yeah, I was traveling because of work. And then I was sitting there in this random office for this random company, just talking to my wife on the phone, and telling her about all these things. And then for the first time in what seemed like months, she asked me, and I mean not like just she, but anyone, she being the first person in months, or I don't know how long, asked me, so how do you feel? How's it going? And just that question, I pushed all this away so much that when she asked that question, I broke down. I totally broke down right there and then. And then I knew I had to go back home. I had to take care of myself as well. Yeah. And then she gave me that space, and then she encouraged me to go and find more I would say quiet spaces, and then also seek a counselor and everything. I think that saved me from being like getting totally destroyed at that moment.
Yeah, crying is the greatest release valve. I mean, I love crying. Now you can cry from laughter also, right? And also the water from tears is like the healthiest thing.
Yes,
but especially men. I mean, you gotta let yourself cry. I cry quite a bit, but I don't consider myself a weak man at all.
Yeah. No, it's
opening yourself up to the world and being brave to be able to experience that and not shut yourself off from that, particularly if it means that you start making bad decisions. And I can't tell you how many health problems come from people who keep things, locked up or buried, and they remain, bitter or have problems in their lives that they're not really, facing. Crying is a great, it's like you got to thank people who, and I mean, some people get into a situation which is horrible. I don't want to suggest that it's not at times a little bit too much, but let's say in sort of the average example of it, allowing yourself to cry is a monumental thing. I remember when I was 12 years old, I went to the movies with my mom, who used to bring our own popcorn. And I'm sitting there right before the movie starts. One of my school friends comes and with his dad, who's divorced again, so my mom had been separated. And so he sits right next to me and the movie starts, and it's the movie The Champ. Do you remember this? It's about, you're probably too young for this. It's a boxing movie, a brilliant boxing movie, but it's a total tearjerker, right? Okay. And so like throughout the whole bloody movie, or at least when he gets to the sad parts, etc., like, his father's being pummeled in the ring. I mean, just like blood flying everywhere. And the little boy is in the corner, like crying, like, and like you can't help but like cry. The music is there. It's like the ultimate crying experience. And so I'm like holding my head back, trying to keep the tears from coming. I'm looking over at my friend. Is he crying? Can he see me? And I held it in. And this is like 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And I will never forget how bad I felt by doing that. And then I will never, ever let myself do that again. Doesn't mean that you're just crying everywhere in our life. That's not what it has to do with.
No.
It's like, again, this sort of self-consciousness but like letting that go is also this, like, it's a self-knowing, it's a self-love, it's self-compassion. And it's, again, who cares what anyone thinks?
Exactly.
You know, take care of yourself, your health. Everyone talks about mental health. This is part of mental health.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because if it's just pent up, and it's almost like, I mean, this other image comes to mind, what you just described from the meditation, that these thoughts, pass by. But if that kind of idea or that concept or that situation comes, passes your mind, and you feel that emotion welling up, I feel exactly what you're saying. And then it's so important to be able to let go, and then just cry, and that emotion, sort of go through your body, and then
let it out. Doesn't last long.
Exactly.
Normally, it doesn't last long.
Yeah.
Some people, this is more difficult. I've been in experiences, very well-run experiences with men, where something gets released, and there's such a liberation of energy that, like, their stomach goes into like a palpitation kind of thing, and it's like, and they can't stop it for like 20 minutes because there's so much pent-up emotion.
For years and years and years.
Dropping down and using your head to say, I'm stronger than this. What's this sissy stuff? I'm not a mama's boy, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that's how you live a healthy life and look young and take care of your organs and your body and your emotions and, live the life that you want to live. And obviously it's not this easy. And I liked what you said earlier about authenticity. I think that's an overused word. What I want people to be when they're authentic is not just showing their weaknesses, but also showing their dark sides and their shadow sides, or not. But, there's so much of that going on in the world today that we have to realize that that's part of all of us, whether you're Mother Teresa or some politician or somebody we think we're putting on a pedestal. Everyone has, something going on there on the dark side. It's the same thing. The more you stifle that, the more you hide it, bury it, don't share it with at least somebody. You don't have to share it on social media, but it becomes this unhealthy, trapped thing. We need to share these things, and they take less control over us, even, all these different kinds of addictions.
Exactly. And it goes back to, this is Carl Jung, right? The shadow, and integrating the shadow into, or I would say, if you want to become a properly, like, whatever you want to, I'm going to just call it conscious person. And by that, I mean, being more, as we said, being more in control of yourself, being able to do things that you find meaningful, and to be able to come to reach that level. And, obviously it's not like, there's a level of enlightenment where we can say, well, now you finally reach the top level. I mean, that's obviously that doesn't work like that. But if you want to reach that stage where you feel more in control and you can do these things that you want, given the right circumstances, you can never be sure that you will not be hit by some kind of bad luck or some kind of a terrible.
Happens to everybody.
Fate.
Happens to everybody.
What you said is exactly right. I've been listening and reading about this a lot more as well. It's accepting these weaknesses, accepting this shadow and these dark sides. And this was even going back to my daily routine. That's part of it as well, because part of my shadow would be, or my dark side would be, to just stay up till like 3 a.m, 4 a.m, sleep till noon, take another 3 hours to get actually, ready to do anything, and then maybe do a few things, get distracted, maybe drink some alcohol or something, and then you can it's not difficult to understand where that will lead in life. It will lead nowhere. It will lead to your own personal hell, basically. So just and this is really something
absolutely fascinating how also in these discussions, in these podcasts and conversations, how people consciously or sometimes even unconsciously counter the shadow, or integrate it, accept it, and then find ways to I mean, you're not fighting against it, but it's kind of like being aware of it, and then structuring your disciplines, your rhythm, the little things that you do, the routine, if you want to call it, so that it doesn't control you, and you can. Yeah.
And Burning Man is a fabulous playing field to let some of these things out, right?
Yeah.
You know, maybe inside of me, I had this burning, no metaphor there, I had a burning desire to walk naked in front of people or something as part of this, you know, like for me, that was like a desire maybe, or a need, or like I needed to get that out of my system. And like, I'm not walking around naked anymore. But it was like something that was preoccupying my my mental things. So, you know, Burning Man is great to be able to kind of go to a place to maybe try some things that allow you to connect with that energy. So you're not just blocking off or being ashamed about it. You know, you're actually, you know, doing it. I mean, like the crazy things you can do at Burning Man. And if you in particular are not judging yourself when you're having the experiences, there's unbelievable transformational moment that can happen. And so I think there's a lot of that going on in Burning Man. This is what a lot of people, the mystique that people, you know, this sort of darks, all of these things, I think at the end of the day is probably part of the great side. Again, if it's in excess, if you're hurting somebody, if you're hurting yourself, not so sure that's, you know, such a good thing, but there's a wide range, right, in there. I'm going to have to leave you, or should I say love you and leave you in a few minutes.
No problem.
So
Maybe we could talk for a long time.
I got to go in a few minutes here, but I don't know how you'd like to wrap this up, Vincent.
I have an idea. I have an idea. So just to maybe leave you with an idea as well, coming back to Burning Man, just wrapping it up on that note, because I know exactly what you mean. And of course, the danger is it's one thing, if you go to Burning Man only to consume, and you can, you know, think about that in any dimension, it's definitely not the right way to approach that. So I think, because consumption can be just, I mean, it's good. Yeah, we all need it. But if we only consume that, then it's just the shadow, just, you know, I would say, you know, pulling us in. What I noticed last time, and I'll leave you with this idea, with this realization last time, when it was my fourth time, I finally, you know, I understood that even more, that it's such a space where you can try out new things in the way that you can create something, you can build something, you can do something new. And this is something that I was preparing myself for this year. I'm actually okay with it not happening. Because I'm going through this transformation right now as well. It's actually fine. I'm connecting with, you know, people like you and others. So I can't help it anyway. Yeah. So it's I can't do anything about it. But I was preparing to organize, you know, some bigger things, and just to see, you know, where can I play a part that can be part of something that is worthwhile. Because I could even see, the funny thing is, even at Burning Man, you could see people, sometimes they talk, well, it's Burning Man. Yeah, I've gone here for 10 years. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to come back next year. Yeah, well, you know, you have the camps there. And I thought something's not right about this kind of sort of like lackluster thing. And I thought, well, and my realization was, I'm not, you know, prescribing this to anyone, but my realization was, it's every time, it's what you make with your energy. If you always find a new thing that you want to, you know, put your energy towards, and you want to grow as a person, then every time is going to be the best one. And it's, but you have to, if you grasp that, then I think that is an explanation why people maybe go like for 20, 30 years in a row. So anyway,
that's beautiful.
It was wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Finish, you know.
Do you want to leave a final thought with everyone as well?
You know, I think your example is really good. It relates to everyday life. If you let your life happen like that, and the years pass by in your relationships and who you are in the world, and you stop doing the things you love, and you stop stretching and growing yourself in ways that are meaningful and purposeful for you. You stop pursuing pleasure, again, in kind of a healthy way, I would say. But, you know, you fall into hedonic adaptation, right? And hedonic adaptation is suddenly you live on autopilot. Your brain is taking it over and you're not sensing life anymore. And you're literally not savoring, right? And you're not appreciating. And this is yourself, the people you interact with, your job, the food you eat, the bicycle ride you go on. You can't even smell the wind. You can't feel the air. You don't, it's like you're not there, right? You're not, and life is just going by and you wake up and there are things that are not the way that you thought they would be or that you imagined them. And like, because you're not co-creating, like you just said very eloquently, with the universe. You need to give into life. And it's about decisions and it's about lifestyle choices and it's about breaking patterns within your own self. It's about seeking a new level of consciousness within yourself, but also in connection with others in the world and using real life to do that. And when you do that, you don't have to lean into thinking about so much the negative side of life, like death or problematic things, to motivate yourself to actually enjoy the moments, make life special in every moment. And what you just said, I think, says it all. You know, the people that are most interesting are the ones that maintain that curiosity, that progressiveness, that, you know, novelty, not novelty for novelty's sake, but they're always finding a way to make like an everyday meal. The way I prepare an everyday meal, I use very nice silverware. I use nice napkin, no plastic on my table. I sit up properly as if I'm with somebody and I make it a freaking celebration because life is a celebration. So use everyday life to do that and you will not go to Burning Man for the 10th year and kind of be jaded for sure. Because you shouldn't be jaded at Burning Man.
There was so much stuff that really inspired me. I'm definitely going to look up the mind movie thing. What you said about, you know, making meals as well. That's definitely something I want to work on as well, because that's something I've been neglecting. But it's been so really, really wonderful talking with you. Thank you so much. And let's talk again soon. And I'll let you know when this is live, when we can listen to it. And also then I'll send you the other links as well, because there's some really fascinating conversations I had with about similar topics. So maybe that's interesting to you as well. So
sounds good.
Thank you so much. And lots of love. From Berlin, from HEX. Well, one HEX to the next, in a way.
Exactly.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Take care. All the best.